Jon Jones finally retired, but did he destroy his legacy?
Jon Jones versus the heavyweight fight will happen. Relax, I'll announce that soon.
Do you remember what I said quite a while ago now? I will retire Jon Jones without even fighting him.
Jon Jones called us last night and retired. Jon Jones is officially retired. Tom Aspinall is the heavyweight champion of the UFC.
But Dana, you just told us this fight's gonna happen. And he just gave you the call tonight and told you he's not fighting Tom. I don't f***ing believe you for a second. This has been known for a long time.
The fight was done. We had the fight done a long time ago. So why he decided not to fight, you guys will have to ask him that.
Do you think he's ducking Tom Aspinall?
No.
But what happened today opens a conversation for us to question whether or not he ran away. My grade believing he quit instead of fighting that guy. He gave him the money. They agreed to everything. And he still just would not do it.
After Jon retired, it officially made Tom Aspinall the undisputed heavyweight champ, and a lot of fans are questioning whether or not Jon destroyed his legacy over the last year or two. But quickly, before we get the video started, for those of you who may not know, I'm JuicyMMA. I make opinionative MMA content, and if you guys enjoy videos similar to this, hit that subscribe button, that like button, and that post notification bell. Also be sure to hit that join button for exclusive channel perks. But anyways, let's get into it. The last few years of Jon Jones's career have been very emblematic of Jones's career as a whole. When Jones is out there fighting, he looks incredible. As when he moved up to the heavyweight division and fought Ciryl Gane for the heavyweight belt, he looked incredible. He was able to surprise Ciryl Gane, take him down immediately, and submit him right away, just showing complete dominance over Ciryl Gane. And at that time, Gane was seen as a young up-and-comer of the heavyweight division and one of the guys at heavyweight that posed a real threat to Jon Jones and anybody else within that division. Then he was able to dominate and finish Stipe Miocic in his next fight, and regardless of how fans saw Stipe at that point, at the end of the day, Jon needed to go in there and needed to dominate it and needed to find a finish, and he was able to do that. So when Jon Jones was in the octagon, he looked great. The problem with Jon over these last 2 years have been the same problem Jon has had over his entire career. When he's not in the octagon, he's always creating issues. As after Jon was able to beat Stipe Miocic, the next obvious fight that needed to get made was Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall. And of course, at this point, we all know Jon consistently, for over a year at this point, has been refusing to fight Tom Aspinall time in and time again, and eventually we got to the point where he officially retired. And to make matters worse, Jon's excuses for not fighting Tom Aspinall was because he didn't think he was ready or he didn't think he was deserving, when of course Tom Aspinall was the interim champ. And not only was he the interim champ, but Tom also had a title defense for that interim belt, which is very rarely seen. But a question that some of you may be wondering at this point is, do I think Jon Jones ruined his legacy? Well, as I touched upon before, I still think Jon Jones has done a lot of amazing things in MMA. Of course, being the youngest undisputed champion ever, at least up until that point, he was also able to be the light heavyweight champion for a very long time, had a bunch of title defenses under his belt, was able to beat some amazing competition. Whether you talk about beating DC twice, whether you talk about beating Gustafsson a couple times, beating Shogun Rua for the belt, beating Rashad Evans, beating Rampage Jackson, even Vitor Belfort. There were so many guys over the years that Jon Jones was not only able to beat, but he was also able to dominate. Because when you look back and you watch a lot of those fights, maybe outside of the first Gustafsson fight, Jon was able to dominate most of those fighters, and he was able to even find finishes on a lot of those fighters as well. So there definitely were a lot of good things and a lot of impressive wins that Jon has had throughout his career. And of course, beating all those fighters that I just mentioned made Jon Jones the champion of the light heavyweight division, also made Jon a very long reigning champion, a bunch of title defenses. Of course, as I mentioned before, he was also able to move up to the heavyweight division a bunch of years later, beat Ciryl Gane, who was seen as a young up-and-comer at that point, completely dominate him and finish him very early in that first round, even got another title defense under his belt at that heavyweight division. And at the end of the day, when you look back throughout the entire career of Jon Jones, there is a lot of greatness there and there is a lot to like. So to answer the question on whether or not not, I think this last 2 or so years ruined the legacy of Jon Jones, I don't necessarily think so. Yes, I do think there are going to be a lot of people remembering this time of Jon Jones's career where he essentially just refused to fight Tom Aspinall for almost 2 years. But at the end of the day, when you look back at his career in 5 years from now, 10 years from now, or even 20 years from now, I don't necessarily think fans are going to look back at this year-plus period where Jon essentially docked Tom Aspinall. I think when they talk about the career of Jon Jones, they're going to look at all those accolades that I just mentioned. The guys that Jon was able to beat, the title defenses that he had under his record, the fact that he was a 2-division champ, and all the success that he's had throughout his career. Before this little spat with Tom Aspinall, a lot of fans, including myself, saw Jon Jones as the greatest fighter of all time, or the greatest MMA fighter of all time. And I don't think after this little year-plus spat with Tom Aspinall, a lot of fans will have their opinions changed on that. Maybe right now, today, maybe this week, maybe this month, maybe even this year, a lot of fans are going to remember this time period where Jon just refused to fight Tom Aspinall. But as I touched upon before, I don't think in 5 years from now, 10 years from now, or even 20 years from now, fans are going to remember this time at least as much as they do now. And I think in the long-term future, fans are going to see Jon Jones for what he was inside of the octagon, as opposed to all the issues that he had outside of it. Yes, there's always going to be this little time period that a lot of fans remember. Yes, there's always going to be that Anthony Smith fight. Yes, there's always going to be that Dominic Reyes fight. Yes, there's also going to be a lot of other issues that fans remember about Jon Jones, but history does a great job at hiding a lot of the shortcomings of greatness. And when you look back at the career of Jon Jones in the long-term future, I think fans are going to see the guys that he beat, the title defenses that he was able to have, and the fact that he was not only a champion at light heavyweight, but he was also a champion at the heavyweight division as well. And also consider the fact that this guy is essentially undefeated throughout a very extensive and very long MMA career. So overall, to answer the question of the video, I don't think this little spat is going to ruin Jones's legacy. I think a lot of people, including myself, are still going to see Jon Jones as the GOAT, and I don't think this little year-plus is going to change that, at least in the long-term future. But now with Jon Jones officially retired, I think it's a breath of fresh air for everybody involved. For Jon Jones, he doesn't need to worry about fighting Tom Aspinall anymore, and he can enjoy his retirement. For Tom Aspinall, he can finally call himself the undisputed heavyweight champ, and he can start to build his own legacy. For the UFC, it's great for them because now they can finally put together championship heavyweight fights. For fans, they can finally see Tom Aspinall fight and start to build his legacy. And I just think for everybody involved, this is a positive. Yes, Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall would have been an amazing fight. Yes, a lot of fans really wanted to see that fight, but at the end of the day, as time progressed, it became increasingly more clear that we were not going to get that fight. So at least at this point, we can move on with the heavyweight division. We can see Tom Aspinall fight out there, and we can finally see Tom Aspinall start to build his legacy. And I think for Tom Aspinall, that legacy building starts right now, as when you look back a week or two ago, Tom Aspinall did go on the Good Guy Bad Guy podcast, and he did say that he has a date of his next fight, and he also has an opponent. So I think him and the UFC for a little bit of time now knew that Jon Jones was retiring, and at this point they already decided to make Tom Aspinall's next fight for the undisputed belt. We have a date, we have a fight, and I think it's going to get all announced soon. At this point, I don't have any information, but I am assuming we're going to be seeing Ciryl Gane versus Tom Aspinall for the undisputed heavyweight belt, and we'll see what happens in that fight, and we'll see how Tom Aspinall is able to build his legacy at this. But at least for him, for the UFC, as well as the fans, the heavyweight division can finally move on, and we can finally see who is the next champ at that division and who is the next dominant champ at that division, as although at this point it does look like that's going to be Tom Aspinall. But one thing I will say is I am extremely happy and extremely satisfied that this whole chapter is finally over. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think Jon Jones's legacy is ruined by this little year plus, or do you not think so? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, check one of these two videos popping up now, and until the next time, peace out guys.